there is a new documentary film.
Are we mentioning it?
We're not mentioning it.
And we're promoting this?
It's called Driven to Race, a documentary film about what it takes to win. And we have the pleasure of interviewing both the producer and director of this film. Joining us today is Jeff Krueger, the producer, and also Brian Spillane, the director. First with Jeff. Jeff, welcome to Drivers Talk.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for making time on your Saturday. And also, Brian, welcome to Drivers Talk.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. Okay, how did all this get started? First of all, was it Mazda's idea that they brought to you, or your idea that you brought to Mazda?
Why don't you give me a rundown, Jeff, on how it got here?
Okay, yeah. We kind of brought this to Mazda. We had been thought about making a film about auto racing, and they were, as you guys were just talking about, very heavily involved in auto racing. So we kind of went to them, and Brian had always wanted to make a documentary film. So we thought, well, let's make a documentary about racing. And, of course, Mazda has just a number of great series, as you guys know.
Right.
And so we looked at the Star Mazda series. We thought that would be the best one for this. And so we went to them, told them our idea, and they said great. They were very supportive, as was the Star Mazda series people. And we just started going to every race and getting hooked up with the teams.
Star Mazda is open wheel racing. Brian, a single seat. Brian, how many races did you have to film?
We filmed the entire season, which was 12 races at 10 locations. Mm-hmm. They had 2 double headers due to some scheduling and so forth at Portland International Raceway and New Jersey, I believe. But we were all over the United States and Canada doing this, and a bunch of filming off track as well with drivers' families. We were taping karting events, because that's part of this ladder and really the way drivers build their career starting out in karting. So we wanted to cover the entire story of what it takes really to break into professional racing.
This is very ambitious, not to mention the challenges involved with getting in-car camera footage and so forth with open-wheel vehicles, right?
Correct. We were fortunate that the teams we were following had in-car cameras that we were able to have, but we were on the track ourselves and finding the most advantageous filming positions. We were in the pits, right in the cars, on top of the drivers, right on the engines, so that we would get that immediate feel, that intimate feel that I think really is of interest to fans and drivers.
Well, this is where racing film, I think, has improved so dramatically as a net result of how much the cameras have improved, because now, before you had to bolt in this huge monstrous camera, and it was just not advantageous to a Formula car particularly. Production cars didn't like adding the weight. But now, Brian, you guys can use pretty darn small cameras and really capture really good wide-angle images, can't you?
That's correct, yes. If you watch stuff that's broadcast on television, you're amazed at how much you feel you're part of the race now. Mm-hmm. And Jeff is a racer from way back. I kind of learned about racing this project, which I think Jeff found amusing. I'm a filmmaker, but I didn't really know much about racing. Wouldn't you agree with that, Jeff?
Yes, that was one of the funnest parts, was educating Brian on racing, and I think he's now a racing fan.
And Jeff, that tends to happen. People who don't know anything get brought in by someone who does, and then they start to realize the complexities and the challenges, and frankly, the camaraderie, the familyness of it all. It is a whole culture in and of itself, and until you get introduced to it properly, and that's the key word, properly, I think it's hard for people to relate to what it is that goes on in motor racing.
Yeah,
that was true for me.
To explore that point, it worked out really well with Brian's inexperience with racing. There were a lot of things that I kind of took for granted as general knowledge.
Boy, that's a good
when Brian
point.
would see it, it would open his eyes, and that really was something that for people who don't follow racing heavily other than watching on TV, this film would really open some eyes as to really what it takes to, one, become a driver, and also just to put a team on the track every day or every weekend.
Jeff, that's a very good point, because as a professional driver, every once in a while I'll do a driving school, and you'll get asked a basic question that you quit thinking about a long time ago, and it makes you stop for a second and go, we do that because... So, Jeff, you're dead right. When you do something a lot or been in it a long time, you do tend to forget some of the basics of it. So, that was a good set of eyes actually to have here. I think what's sad to me is you pick the Star Series. You and I, Jeff, you particularly will know the better drivers are coming out of those guys had have to be good drivers to win that series. Star Series gets the least amount of exposure because they don't look like production cars. So Mazda gets a lot more fame, if you will, as a net result of their MX-5 cars and their Pro. Well, we're not supposed to call it Miata Series, but we all know it's a Miata Series. And the RX-8 they're running in GT racing. It's funny because the Star Series, which is so important to a driver advancement, gets the least amount of ink. So I'm glad you started with that series.
Yeah, that was really one of the reasons why we chose it, was because I've been watching it for a number of years, and it's one of the consistently the most competitive. Ugh. The cars are extremely fast, and the drivers have to learn to tune. I mean, we were fortunate the teams actually let us in on the engineering debriefing sessions with the drivers. We filmed all this. They actually explained what they're looking at for telemetry and the onboard shots when they're coaching the drivers. So, yeah, I think we picked the right series. I agree with you.
Wow, that's good. That's
hey,
good
guys,
stuff.
First of all, let me give a website. If anybody wants to go see a little clip of what you've done, it's Cargo, C-A-R-G-O, Productions.com. And when I went to your site and I saw that little clip that was on there, and I'm not sure if it came from YouTube or how you had that posted, but I think exactly what you just said, guys, as far as opening eyes, it gives anybody that's not involved in racing a little bit of background into the dollar figure that goes into it, because they're speaking about that, the time, the life experience, and probably just behind the scenes in general of racing, that most people watch a race and they go, okay, it's cars going fast and, the car is doing the majority of the work. No, it's the driver having to build a reputation from the karting days, like you said, and then working their way into these cars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And one of the things that was, I think, most, surprising, or the biggest, the cool factor for me was that there is 95% or more of what goes into racing is not on race day.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And seeing all that firsthand and how much these people have emotionally invested in this is amazing. And talking about the Star Series, what I think by design, a little bit by luck, what we came across is really a dividing line. It's kind of a filter between the aspiring driver and the professional. If you're able to get past that filter, that narrow, that narrow filter that gets you to the professional level, you're in. But there's a lot of people at Star Mazda and below trying to get in. So it's kind of really a gate into the upper echelons.
I got to tell you, we're going to go to break, but I'm excited about the fact that you got a guy that understands racing, taking a director who knows how to make movies, and make sure we don't see the normal disaster race film that we usually get because people on it don't get it. And what an exciting way to come in and be kind of handheld at top of game. That said, we're going to go to break. This is Drivers Talk Radio. More on this topic when we come back from break. For those who joined us at driverstalkradio.com, thanks for being with us.
Drivers Talk returns after these messages. And now, more Drivers Talk with Rick Titus.
And welcome back to Drivers Talk. Rick Titus, Tracy Miller, Jay Dalton, Mike Amusio in studio. We've heard a little earlier a technology report from Road Test Editor BJ Clean by phone. And, of course, online, two very special guests. And, frankly, a project that's very exciting because if you're an enthusiast, if you've lived your life in motor racing, as Jay and I have, we've seen so many butcher jobs that were supposed to be documentaries that ended up being more about the love affairs of some drivers or mechanics because the people involved didn't know what the stink they were doing. Boy, this is such the inverse situation here, Jay. This is
very
great.
Definitely is. It's called Driven to Race, a documentary film about what it takes to win. But produced by Jeff Krueger, our special guest today, and also directed by Brian Spillane, also on the phone today. A question for Jeff. Jeff, when you went out to do this, what surprised you? You're an ex-racer. You must have been surprised by what you saw.
One thing I was really surprised about, and I told Brian this, I said the success of this film is going to depend on how we're received by the racing teams. And, if the teams aren't going to let us get that intimate with them where we can get in and get all this behind-the-scenes footage, this really won't work because then it's going to be just another film from the outside looking in, which we didn't want to make. We wanted to get right in there. And right off the bat, we went to Sebring, and that was the first time we met any of the teams. And the teams were much more receptive. I mean, everybody in racing is good-natured, but at the same time, you're talking about a very competitive, there's a lot of money, so we weren't sure if they were going to let us film a lot of what they did let us film. They were very trusting. I mean, we could have easily taken the film and gone and sold it to other teams, their telemetry, their engineering debriefing sessions, and all that. We could have been double agents for all they know.
I was going to say, did back funding start to matter to you all of a sudden?
Really. I actually saw another way we could make money after a while.
That's right.